Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday afternoon on such great weather. It's an honor for us to have you here joining us during the summertime. But welcome to the Vines Unknown webinar series. And in this segment, we're exploring Provence, France. And this happens to be one of our more special segments, even though every segment is considered special. But this is extra special because we have two very interesting and special guests. With us, we're going to have Patrick Walsh of Provence Wine Imports, and along with Patrick, with us all the way from France, live from their Château, is with us winemaker Madeleine. Welcome to this segment. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you. Hi, Foti.
Hello.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
This is a very fun and interesting segment for me personally because rosé happens to be one of my most favorite categories, but I think it's also an important category in general where the trend is always on the uptick with rosé, and it's been around for a long time, but recently in the US in the last 7 to 8 years, you know, we've started to see a huge increase in interest in the category, and I think what better than to have representation from one of the most reputable parts of the world that produces rosé. And I think it's very special that we have with us someone who actually is a rosé producer that can tell us a little bit more about rosé in depth. But in general, we're going to start this segment with Madeleine, who is a 4th generation winemaker from Provence, from a family property, which I can have Patrick give us a little bit of a more in-depth introduction to Madeleine, and we'll discuss more about rosé as we get into the segment.
Yes, so Madeleine is a winemaker and director of Château Barbebelle. Château Barbebelle is located north of Aix-en-Provence. I would say 15 minutes drive northwest of Aix-en-Provence in the little village of Rogne. And it's a very nice chateau, very typical Provençal style. And the first time I went there, I really loved the place. It's very, you know, relaxing and very typical Provence. And she's gonna tell you all the details about, you know, the vines that they grow there and the wines that they make. But you have, yes, the real Provence chateau, making rosés from Provence, one of the best, I would say, from
Right.
Provence, and some other wines, some red and whites as well. But it's going to be very interesting to know all the details about the chateau. So welcome,
Sure.
Madeleine.
And Madeleine, welcome to the show. And I see that it looks like you're in a cave, but I'm assuming you're in the winery or in the cellar room. But tell us exactly where you are in the chateau.
Hello. Yes, I am in the tasting room.
Tasting room.
Sorry for the light; it's not very clear, but yes, it's where we welcome the people who come to visit the estate, and we organize some testing here.
Yes.
Yes, as Patrick said, we are family estates just near Aix-en-Provence. At the north of Aix, so it's more on the countryside of Provence. It's not near the sea, it's more on the countryside.
The countryside, okay.
Yeah, we are, so I'm 30 years old. I'm the 4th generations, and I'm working in family here with my husband, and some good partners. And so I'm more in charge of the commercial parts and also the marketing, the communication, and my husband is more in charge of the production part. So all is made at the estates. Like we have the vines, we have 45 hectares. I don't remember how many acres is it, but it's quite big.
Conversion.
Yeah, it's a little bit more than the medium size. So we are family team, family spirit, but not very small. Like we have a lot of vines, and we do that since 4 generations. So Madeleine, we are quite famous here.
So you grow your own grapes. So everything is estate grown.
Yes, we do.
And what is mainly the varieties that you grow for your rosé production?
So the three main varieties are Grenache, Syrah, and Cinsault.
Okay, so
we also have Cabernet Sauvignon, but it's only for the top cuvée in rosé, and also we use Cabernet for the reds.
So for our listening audience, real quickly, you just made a point. If for those that were paying attention to the grape varieties that Madeleine just mentioned, obviously are all red grape varieties. So rosés are produced from red grapes.
Yes.
Not to get too technical or to take too much time, but basically rosés have very minimal skin contact in the fermentation to produce the structure and the color. Yeah,
that's So that's the same grapes, but we take care of the grapes during all year differently if we want to produce rosé at the final or reds. Like for the red wine, we need more concentration, less grape on the vines, you know.
Yes.
For the rosé, it's different, but yes, it's still Grenache and Syrah, for example. Cinsault, no. We do not use Cinsault for the reds. It's not as concentrated. It's not. It don't have any tannin.
And in Provence, it seems to be. And Patrick, you let me know as well that typically the main grape varietals that grow in the area are Grenache, Cinsault, and what other varieties?
So usually it's Grenache, Cinsault, and Syrah are the three main varieties, and then there are some different appellations. For example, if you go more in the Bandol area, which is closer to the water, they grow a lot of Mourvèdre there. Mourvèdre is, because they are very known for the reds, so Mourvèdre is very like a full body with a lot of tannins, bold red. And so they use Mourvèdre too in the rosé. Usually 1/3 of the blend is Mourvèdre in Bandol. So Mourvèdre, and then for the white, the most important grapes are Vermentino. So that's the Italian word, but we can call it Rolle. We call it Rolle in French.
Oh, wow.
And also some Uni Blanc or some Claret.
Okay. So there's some vast varieties.
If you have something else in mind, Madeleine, I think.
No, you have also Sauvignon Blanc.
Sauvignon. Oh yes, Sauvignon Blanc. Yes.
Okay. So.
Sorry, for the rosé, as you explained, even if it's the same red grapes, the big difference is when we press the grapes. Like we press directly after the harvest. We do not any. We don't do any maceration. Like we press directly. That's why the color is so pale.
And Madeleine, do you have a specific amount of time that you leave the skins in for your rosé production, or is it different for?
No, you mean
skin contact?
Cuvée
for the skin contact.
For each cuvée, there is no skin contact. We press directly. Like we harvest during the night. Only during the night, because here in Provence, the nights are fresh compared to the day. In September, it's very hot here. So we harvest during the night and we press directly the grapes. So the temperature is it's colder as the day, and we can extract all the best flavors and the freshness and
so basically this is a result. So this is the fleurie. This is the color here is basically the result of a slow press with no skin contact.
Yeah, with a very low temperature, like 5 degrees.
Yes, because Foti, you are thinking there are two different process of winemaking of rosé. Let me know, Madeleine, if I'm mistaken, but there is Rosé de Saignée, right, which is with the skin contact, this one. And there is the pressurage direct, which is the one that you do at Château Barbebelle and that most of the wineries, I think, in Provence do that now.
So that's very interesting, because I was always aware that mainly there's, you know, some bit of skin contact, but now this makes sense why it's so, the color is so light, where it's just a gentle press, which is basically the pulp and juice that comes from the red grape, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and even if the color is very pale, there are a lot of flavors, like, because the temperature, the fresh temperature is good for to have a pale color, but it's also good to extract very good aromas, like flowers, grapefruit, and so
Stunning.
even if it's pale, there is flavors. It's not like water.
Excellent. So how many cuvées of rosé do you produce?
We produce 3 cuvées. This one is, so the one you have, the Rosé Fleuri. Yeah, it's a new one. It's the 3rd year. This one was made with Grenache, Syrah, and Cinsault, but it's mostly our youngest vine at the estate. Like and it's the wine who has the more Cinsault inside.
Delicious, delicious.
And our objective was to produce a rosé with a lot of taste of strawberry, for example, but fresh strawberry, grapefruit, passion fruit. All our rosé are very fresh, and there is not so much sugar. It's more dry rosé.
Yes.
And
I
also,
definitely see that.
And also flavors, flower taste. Sorry. That's why we call the cuvée Rosé Fleuri, because on the nose and on the taste you can have found some flower taste.
That's, everything is right on with what you just mentioned. Definitely floral aromas, and the textures are, you know, definitely inviting and then slightly dry. But as far as flavors, I definitely can see or taste, I should say, fresh berries for sure. But it's, well, for me, this is very well balanced from the beginning to the finish.
Thank you. That's because we have a very, very good terroir at the estate. We are in 400 meters in altitude, so it makes a difference between less altitude. And yes, the wind, the Mistral is very good. The nights are fresh, and the soil is has a lot of calcium. Soil. So that's why the wines are all fresh, and it's not, there is no acidity, because as a good winemaker, we pay attention to pick the grapes very mature with a lot of sugar on the grapes, so it balances the fresh acidity from the soil. So you have both.
So it's basically everything is natural in this process. The farming, the production of the wine, and the end result. Everything just, for me, this tastes very clean, if that's a term I can use.
And in Provence too, there is something important in Provence for the harvest that I don't think our guests know really. It's like the hour that you have to pick the grape is very special. It's very early, right, Madeleine?
Yeah, we begin at 2 a.m. and we finish at 9. And
so
after
so let me ask you this question: how do you see in the dark? Do you have special lighting when you work?
We have some light on the machine.
Ah, okay.
Because we use mostly the machine, because you can keep the grapes on the night, during the night, and you could harvest how do you say, faster, so you can wait the very good maturity, because you know that in one night you can harvest a big parcel, so it's very good to be patient, and you know, because day after day the grapes change and the maturity is much better, so you take time. With the machine, that is a big good point. Good
So
advantage.
as you get closer to harvest, I'm sure it gets very, you might get very nervous because every day, every minute, every hour counts on when you have to pick your grapes, correct?
Yeah.
So it must be very stressful, I'm sure, as it comes close to harvest.
Yes, even if no, in Provence we are very lucky because the weather is good most of the time.
It's consistent.
But
Excellent.
and I
What?
have two other cuvées. This one is the cuvée Madeleine, named after me.
After you?
Yeah, this one is classical one, one of the famous one. We produce a lot of this cuvée for France. If you come to France and go to the restaurants in Aix-en-Provence, you will have this one because year after year, generation after generation, we have.
Patrick, is that available for export?
So that would be maybe available later this year, but I used to have. So I used to have last year the Madeleine and the Heritage. Unfortunately, this year was a little special and tricky, as I have to say. So I had to narrow a little bit my portfolio, but the free rosé from the Château Barbebelle, I really love them. They are different. And they all make sense too. The Rosé Fleuri, it's a very well balanced and more on the easy to drink side. And then the Madeleine would be better to pair, with a meal. So that's why it goes very well with the restaurants. And the Heritage is the high hand that Madeleine's gonna present.
Yeah, Heritage is this one. This one as the blending is different. It's Grenache and Syrah, but it has no Cinsault and it has Cabernet, 20% Cabernet Sauvignon. So this one has more volume. It's a little bit more creamy. It's not sweet, but it has a longer
texture.
Longer texture, bigger texture, and it is very delicate. It's not as fresh on the nose and first palate as the other one, but it's come very
more refined as far as the structure goes. So the Fleury would be a little more fresh.
Yeah, but finished shorter.
It's shorter, and then this one has a longer finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one is like, it's more round, round and a little bit, I don't know if I can say, but like, creamy maybe a little bit, like where you have the body and it's a round and there is a lot going on. It's a very nice wine, even by itself or even to pair with something.
And I know that, so Madeleine has some limited time with us on our segment. So Ari, if we can open up questions to our audience that can at least have this opportunity to talk or ask questions to Madeleine, it would be great if we can do so.
Yeah, so just so we let the audience know, if you have any questions, please type them in. I have a couple already, but if anybody else has any questions for the guests, please just use the chat and type them right in. We have one question. Are the mix percent always consistent? 50% Grenache, 10% Syrah, or do you adjust the percentage in order to get the colors you like?
Interesting.
We adjusted the percentage. Year after year, we do not select exactly the same percentage of Grenache or Syrah and Cinsault. We are more focused on keeping the same different cuvée and different style for each cuvée. For example, if the Grenache is better this year or Cabernet, we will manage. Even if it's 20% difference compared to last year, we want to still have the same difference one rosé compared to the other one. And for the color, the Syrah has more color, so we have to be careful to keep the color very pale. But now, because we know we have the technical to make pale color with still a lot of flavor, so we manage it before the blending, like during the vinification and during the pressing. Like we have, for example, at the estates, we have how do you say, Patrick, is an échangeur, like something we put the grapes on it, and the temperature will be cooler. Very fast.
What do you mean, the vats?
The what?
Vats? The vat, les cuves? Qu'est-ce que tu veux dire?
Non, les échangeurs tubulaires, tu sais, où on met la vendange d'abord.
That's a good question. I don't know the name in English.
No, it's a big tube where we put the grapes and very fresh temperature, and the grapes will be very cool, very fresh in few seconds. And so that's
it cools down the grapes.
Yeah, and for the pressing is very good, and the color is very pale, even with the Syrah. It has the reputation to do very intense color.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Ari.
Yes, a couple of quick questions. These two of these came together, so I'll ask them together. Is all rosé French, and are darker colored rosés sweeter than pale ones?
Yeah, it's.
Can I answer the first question?
What?
So there was two questions, right, Ari?
Yeah. So are all rosés French, and are darker colored rosés sweeter than pale ones?
Question. Okay. No.
Do you want to take the first one?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunately, rosés are not always French, but rosés are made all over the world, right? Every country produces rosé. And then the second question, we can leave it for Madeleine.
So are darker colored rosés sweeter than pale?
It's true and false. Like
yes and no.
The dark. Often the darker rosé were made in a different region than Provence, because in Provence we have like 10 years technical before. We are in advance in the technical process of rosé, so we know how to make good rosé and pale. But I would say that region not as modern in those technique, they use rosé from Saignée. So they don't press directly. They put some red grapes on the tongues, and they wait for few hours the first juice, and it's produced more color. And also they produce often rosé with different grapes. Like in Bordeaux, they use Merlot or Cabernet, and so the color are more intense. But you know they won't change the grapes in 1 year. They have the vines, so they need to keep them for long and use them as they can. So they produce rosé with the grapes there are, even if it's not very good grape for rosé. Merlot is more color, has more color than Cinsault, for example. But so the color comes from the grapes, and then.
If I can add something, it comes with I see, you know, I saw in Provence, I think in the rosé making, it's as you said, it, you know, they have maybe 10 years in advance of everybody else. But the big difference I saw is in Provence, they know how to really play with the cold, you know, keeping the grapes cold, and then picking the grapes cold at night too. And that is a very important, you know, part in the processing and in the final color of the wine.
And the juice more intense for the other region is not sweet, but is the aromas are not the same. Like in Provence, we are used to produce more grapefruit taste or flowers notes or not citrus, but you know, freshness and acidity. And with the other grapes from other region it could be more intense or a little bit fat or creamy.
If I can add real quickly for the listening audience to that question, Ari, as far as color, it doesn't necessarily mean that if the rosé has a darker color to it, that it's going to be sweeter, because depending on the grape variety that we just mentioned between both Madeleine and Patrick, you know, every grape has different color pigmentation. The thickness of the skins are different as well. So for those that produce rosés with skin contact, some of the grapes produce a darker look when they produce their rosés, but it's a little deceiving for the consumer, because sometimes that's the thought process that most consumers have, is that the darker it might look, the sweeter it might be. But this is why we put these segments together, so that we can kind of shed more light and educate our listening audience on what really is happening. So yes, you can still purchase rosés that are a little darker in color, and they'll still be dry as well.
Yeah, and rosé, when you want to choose your rosé, it will be more depending on the area of where it's from. So rosé from Provence is, you know, most of the, I would say like 99, maybe 95% of the time would be a dry rosé. And if you're looking for something sweet rosé, it's more rosé from the New World, a rosé from you know, the US, from a Californian rosé maybe, from Oregon would be like more on the sweet side than a French one. Depends of the area of the world, rather than the color.
All right, excellent. Ari, any other questions?
Yeah, we have a few. So let me start. All right, let me just start with a couple of simple ones. Is rosé always sweet?
No, as we say, no, it's more in Provence. It's more dry, but it's dry doesn't mean no fruit. Like you have fruit, but it's fresh fruit, and so you could find on the market a sweet rosé from all over the world, or dry rosé from Provence. So.
Okay, all right, and is White Zinfandel a rosé, or is it similar to rosé? What this is what the question is asking.
Can I answer that?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
No.
Yes.
No, at all.
No.
White Zinfandel has nothing to do with the rosé production. I mean, Patrick and Madeleine, you can include your thoughts, but if I can just quickly answer that from my end. White Zinfandel was a product that was created in the US 30 to 40, maybe close to 40 years ago by accident in California, where White Zinfandel was a result of one vintage or harvest where the grapes were not of quality, or because the grapes got burnt on the vines, and they decided to, instead of, you know, getting rid of those grapes and destroying them, they wanted to salvage the grapes by kind of blending them together, breaking them down with a little extra additional sugars, some water, and some coloring. And they came up with this concept called White Zinfandel that really made a sensation in the market back then, and it became very popular. But it has nothing to do with the way that rosé is being made today, or has been made. Because before the creation of White Zinfandel, quick note is that rosé was a very popular category in the US prior to the early 80s, but then it disappeared, so to speak, once White Zinfandel became the new trend back then.
Yes, and from my experience of importer and distributor in Massachusetts, I see that sometimes I do tastings in different areas of Massachusetts, and sometimes some customers, when they see a rosé, even a light rosé, they think that it's sweet and it's a White Zinfandel. So that's from I think it was a big, there were a big consumption of a White Zinfandel like long ago. So I think people are used to that.
It's a stigma that we're trying to overcome.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, Ari?
Yeah, and then in your professional opinions, is rosé only a summer wine?
In my opinion?
Yes.
No.
I drink it all year round.
Yeah, we drink rosé all year long in Provence, but we we drink rosé since a long time, so we are used to drink it. You have different rosé, different style and different line, different region produce rosé. So I think you could find the rosé you like for summer, the one you like for winter. It depends. And rosé, some rosé are very light. Some other rosé has more structure, longer finish, so you can pair with different food. So
very versatile. Very versatile. And Madeleine, do you still have time for one more question, or do you need to go?
No, it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We can still have Madeleine with us for.
Okay.
Excellent. Let me see. Let me find a good one.
A good one, huh?
Well, there's a few that I don't even like. Like, can I drink it with ice? And
well, listen, questions like that. Yeah, I mean, if that's what they enjoy,
we call that. Yeah, there is in France we call that rosé piscine. So we can do it, but it's like you have to choose a rosé that you know that you are not really looking for like the good taste from the good winemaker. You know, but
good point. Very good point, Patrick.
Yeah, because you put some water on the rosé.
Well, so based on the previous question, there's one here. So, and I think Fati, you covered this before when we did a sip clip. There's a very popular thing in the United States where rosé is almost like a wine specifically for women, and we believe it's a stigma because of its color, and I think that's like such a silly thing.
Don't be embarrassed to drink rosé in public, is what you're saying.
No, yeah, I drink rosé all the time. I have no problem. But but why is it? Is it strictly because of the color that there's this like thing in the United States?
I'm sure there's an association just because of what you just said, but I don't know. I don't think so.
It's like whenever we have questions about rosé, it's always like it's that one of those questions. So let me look for another good.
So if I can react to that, in France, it's not. I see it here. I see you know, in the US, I see it's more you know, a wine for women, which is not the case in France. I don't see that in France. Everybody is, you know, men and women are drinking rosé in France. Maybe it's because of maybe because it's young here and people have to get used to it. And
I
you know,
agree.
I see
Yes.
a lot of people who, as I said earlier, that only tasted sweet rosé. So maybe the men too, they are, you know, I don't like something sweet. Maybe it's a taste, you know, it could be a lot of things, but I think it's because it's pretty new in the US. You know, it's
Good point.
Yeah.
And okay, so is darker in color rosé sweeter in taste?
I think we kind of covered that in one of the previous questions. It doesn't always necessarily, and as Madeleine has mentioned, a lot of it has to do with, you know, the location of where the grapes come from, the type of grape, the way it's produced. So it's not necessarily in my professional opinion.
Okay. All right, and I think that's the last one because we have a couple more, but I think we covered these.
And if we can let our audience know that this production that Madeleine produces, the Fleury, is available on the Urban Wine Club shopping cart, which is available for purchase for
it's
either.
good for men too.
It's good for men,
For women.
right? And women. It's unisex. This is unisex.
There's a weird stigma in the United States with I don't know if some men aren't secure in their masculinity or what, but they won't drink a pink or a light colored wine. I don't understand it, but it's something that we deal with, and I think educating.
We're gonna get past this.
Yeah, educating.
that's going to change. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, education is number one.
Excellent.
And I think it's also because of the packaging, no? Maybe the roses are as a packaging very feminine often,
Yes.
no?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, all
very pink with pink and not
Yeah.
so.
all of that I think adds to it, and I think that's very specific to the U.S. because I don't see it anywhere else in the world. And the funny thing is, just on a side note, in the early 18 and 1900s, pink was actually a chosen color for boys. That only changed in the last like 60, 70, 80 years here in the United States. So
I never knew that.
yeah.
How did you find that out?
I looked it up. I drink a lot of pink drinks, so I looked it up. And
You want to just reinforce the fact.
no, it's the truth. Blue was not like the boy color; it was pink.
Wow.
It was like the last 50, 60, 70 years that kind of changed. And
Now I feel better about myself now that you said that.
So I think that's where Rosé kind of plays into that thought.
Excellent.
All right.
Well, Madeleine, we want to thank you for joining us. I know it must be almost 11 o'clock there in the evening, and I'm sure you need some rest. But we want to thank you very much for joining us. We're very, very honored that you're with us. We're big fans. We're big fans of your production and all your wines. We drink them often. We highly recommend them to all of our guests and our clients and so forth. And we wish you continued success. And we look forward to all of your productions moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you. We try to do good work, but without you to drink it and promote it.
Yes, and we'll definitely have you back again with us on a future segment as well.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. So for our listening audience, we're going to still continue this segment. Madeleine is going to sign off at this point so she can get some rest. But we just want to wave bye to you.
Thank you very much.
Au
for being with us.
Au revoir.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And then we'll continue our segment with Patrick as well, which we want to thank you, Patrick, for helping putting this together and having Madeleine join us all the way from Provence, France. And let's discuss a little bit more about Rosé, even though we were exploring and tasting the Fleury from her Château Barbebelle. We also have one more wine that we're going to discuss as well with you on this segment.
Yes. So so we're gonna try another rosé, which is it's interesting
Patrick,
because yes.
Before we actually continue move forward, we should make a really quick point about the fact that even though you're French and you're a French wine importer, you have some roots in Massachusetts.
Yes. So
let's discuss that real quickly.
Very, very often, people, when they see my name, for example, on emails on different places, they think I'm American, and when they hear me talking, they're like, what's going on?
You confuse them.
Yeah. So I was born in the U.S. in Boston. My father and all the side of my family, my father's side of my family is from here, from Boston. So I
Boston native, excellent.
Yes.
Well, if I heard of a Patrick Walsh from Boston, I would think you were from Southie and you were gonna like beat me up or something.
maybe years ago.
That might be possible.
But yeah, so I grew up the first years of my life here in Boston, and then I grew up with my mom in France. So I moved to France pretty young. I was 4 years old, and then I grew up in Aix-en-Provence. So I did my school, my high school, my college in Aix. So yeah, I got the culture from there. I enjoyed wine from very early on. Because in France it's always part of the culture.
Of course.
Very early during the dinner, with my grandparents, I remember, you have always this little taste of wine, just taste it.
Just taste.
Yeah, just so very early, and so you have this culture going on, and Provence is you see vines everywhere there. It's part of the region, and it's very interesting too, because you have a big panel of different rosés, depending on the soil, depending on the area, if you're close to the Mediterranean Sea or if you're further. And so yeah, so I grew up in Aix, and when I came in the US, I came back in the US. It's 5 years ago now, And then, so I worked before in restaurants as a sommelier, and I thought 3.5 years ago that Provence was not really well represented here in the market, because I used to know I still know the good winemakers and the good domains in France, and I thought that these were not really represented. It was like, at the time, it was only, I would say, big brands.
Yes.
And not independent winemakers or family winemakers. So I wanted to bring, just to try and to bring these products here in Boston. And with my dual citizenship, it was easier to have the licenses to import and to distribute. So I wanted to try that, and since that I just enjoy it, and it's been great.
Well, I'm glad that you put this together, because of you, we're enjoying a lot of fantastic rosés, at least in the Boston market, and we have access to some of what I believe is some of the best productions that are coming over from Provence. And real quickly, as you mentioned the term X, and I'm sure some of our listening audience are probably wondering, what does X mean? So X is a region within Provence, right? AIX.
Yes. So X is the city, and it comes from the Latin aquae, which is water, and it's a city of water. So they have a lot of thermal, bath. I don't know how to say in English, but we have a lot of fountains in X. Everything is about, it's a big thermal city. So it comes from aquae, from the Latin, and now it's X.
Okay.
And so that's how the name came.
So X is the city in Provence.
Yes, Aix-en-Provence is the city. Yes.
City. Okay, great. So for those that are listening, I'm sure you've probably seen on French rosés that have the word AIX. So basically, it's a very famous and very important city in the region of Provence.
Yes. So, and the X rosé, for example, was it's a rosé that was made. I know the winemaker who made X rosé. I don't know if you know this one, but it's a rosé that has been, there were some difficulties in France because they used the name of the city, so it was a big deal in France. It didn't, come all the way here, so we don't know about all this, but it's been, there are a lot of debates always in France about this stuff. Yeah. So
I'm sure I'm sure your work is very challenging, and I'm sure it takes a lot of time and effort. And I'm sure you're out there before this whole pandemic. I'm sure you were working with a lot of restaurants, working the restaurant scene in the city to get the wines into the programs. And now things have changed, and obviously, we're adjusting to what we're doing. But as folks are coming across, segments like this, and I'm sure other webinars about rosé, anything that you can tell our audience who are starting to discover rosé, anything that you want to point out as far as, recommending rosé in general and why they should be drinking it?
So rosé, I think rosé, it's interesting because, we had questions about, is it sweet or is it not sweet? Or rosé is very interesting because it's even further than that. You have a big panel of different rosé, and I think you have, a rosé taste for everyone. You just have to find your rosé. You have some very light ones that are perfect to enjoy, by the pool during a very hot day, and you have ones that are very well structured, like very, even, sometimes you have some good body in the rosé, and you can pair it with some red meat. So you have a large panel. So, rosé, I think, is, as I said, I think it's really, you can choose it by the region from where it's from, because rosé is very technical to make. It's a process that it's not easy.
Okay.
It's not just mixing red and white grapes. It's very difficult, very precise. So the different region, they have their own process, and so at the end of the story, the signature of the rosé is different between the different region. Loire Valley rosé would be different than Provence, and even in France, even inside France, Loire Valley is different. and then if you have a Spanish rosé or rosé from Portugal, would be the weather is hot, so it would be more. You have more tannins, you have more fruit, and you can start to feel the sweetness.
Yeah.
And then Italian rosé are different too. It's more about the region. You just have to, I think, try and
right.
And find your rosé. Provence, they try to stay on the line that of a dry, light rosé, and not sweet, never sweet. Even if the color sometimes is a little darker, it's going to be always dry with minerality, with acidity.
So basically, they're all very different. And what we are mentioning, Patrick, is basically depending on where they're from, even the location within the country, the grape variety, its climate, and so forth. Rosés might kind of look the same from the bottle, but they can be so very different from each other.
Yes.
So let's quickly discuss the second rosé that we want to feature in our segment, which we have here as well. And I can't put the glass down because as I sip it, I keep wanting to sip more. But let's talk about the next rosé that's in this segment.
So next rosé is a Maison Parel Mistral rosé. So this is it's pretty important rosé for me because now it's been as I say, it's been 4 years that I have the company Provence Wine Imports, and I really enjoyed all the time that I spent in France. I try to go in France every 3 months to really be always know all the trends in France and know what are the good wines, what are the wines to go taste.
Right.
Different vintage are always different. So I have the network there. I have friends that own retail shops in France, and they always, when I come in France, they always say, you should go see this winemaker. So and then sometimes I just take the car and then I just hit the road and then I just try here and there, and nice. So I really enjoyed that. And so for this rosé, it's a combination of a lot of different things. So 2020 is so in French, 20 is vin, the number.
Yeah.
So it's like the wine, it's vin. So in France, everybody said 2020 is the year of the wine, but actually it's not really because it was a pretty tricky year, between the tariffs at the end of last year and then now the pandemic. So this wine was kind of, I wanted to find the perfect combination between price and quality.
Okay.
Because with the new tariff, the rosé is the first wine in line, I think, with the tariffs that gets up the step up in terms of price. So I wanted to still have a rosé accessible to people and a good rosé, and I wanted, so I partnered with a winemaker in Provence, and I partnered with Maison Parel, and we made together this rosé. So we did the blend of the rosé, and we made it, and it's a different appellation it's not a Château d'Aix-en-Provence or Côte de Provence. It's a Mediterranean appellation, EGP. And so the Mediterranean EGP, you have less rules to make the rosé because when you have the name of the appellation,
more freestyle.
Yes,
freestyle.
More freestyle, because when you see a Côte de Provence, the winemakers, they have to follow a lot of rules.
Right.
They have to pick the grape from this area. They don't. They can't water it. It has to be, that amount of this grape, that amount of this grape. So it's very, a lot of rules. And so when you go to another appellation like this one, you can play around more, and it's always more flexible in terms of price. So I wanted to, find a good rosé and make a good rosé and put it on the market in the US accessible,
So this is a result. This rosé is a result of your participation. You're part of this.
Yes.
This is you.
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
So and for the name Mistral is a wind in Provence, which is very important in the winemaking because it's a very strong wind in Provence that blows over all the vines and take from the vines all the bad stuff, and so keep the vines clean. So the winemakers work a lot with the rosé, and they work a lot with the Mistral wind, and so that's why I wanted to tribute in the winemakers in Provence, the Mistral wind, which is very important.
That's
And
really fascinating. Well, I've not just, but I've been pouring some of this as we've been talking from the beginning of this segment, and comparing it to the Fleury and so forth, this is delicious.
So it's very different. As I said, you can play more. So you can play more with the blend too. So it's a blend very typical that you won't find in the Côte de Provence, for example.
So tell us what the blend is.
So the blend, you have the typical Provence Grenache, Syrah, and Cinsault. You have these three to make the good balance.
Yeah.
And you have the Carignan. We have 5% of Carignan in the wine.
Yeah.
And that gives first of all, it gives the color, which is a little darker than the other one.
If you notice, if I can just put these real quickly side by side. I don't know if it does justice, but if you notice, the Barbebelle Fleury is very pale, and the Mistral has a little bit of a darker tone, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so the Carignan gives that too, and the Carignan in the taste gives this body and this acidity that's gonna stay longer than the other one. So it's a good wine to pair with some food, and you have a little bit of fruit, but you have more of the green. So you have some hints of like herbs, green. We call that garrigue in France, which is like the green, the soil, or the herbs.
Yes.
So more on this side than the fruits. So you have some fruit, but more on the greens.
I'm truly enjoying this because it has so many layers. For rosé, it has so many layers from the aromas to the texture to the flavors and to the finish. This is fantastic. I tip my hat off to you, Patrick. This is something that I personally would highly recommend for someone that wants to really enjoy a very well-made rosé that's blended from at least 4 grapes.
Yes, 4 grapes.
4 grapes. Excellent. Ari, what do you think?
You know me. I love it.
Power of persuasion. So if we say we love it, you're going to love it too, right?
If I love it, definitely, because, and I'm lucky because Foti sends me everything. Because right now I'm in DC, so he sends me everything in a package, so I don't even have to think about anything. I get a nice little package in the mail with beautiful, awesome wines, and I always tell him about the rosés, and it really is. We did a segment on your rosés before, and I love them then, I love them now, and
awesome.
So
Ari,
highly recommend.
Do we have any questions for Patrick as we near towards the fourth quarter of our thing?
I actually shut the chat off after Madeleine, so I do not have any.
So the Mistral Rosé we just added to our shopping cart, which is available for sale as well, which is something that for those of us that are with us, I personally highly recommend that you need to try this rosé. Not just because Patrick is here, but believe me, I taste hundreds of rosés during the season as they come around for us to review, to sample, to sell, and so forth. But this is very special because you're getting to listen to the people who are behind it and the people that are actually putting it together to bring to market, considering quality and also price points. So Patrick, I commend you for this fantastic production, and I definitely believe that it will do very well, and we're definitely going to sell a lot of it, at least here, or if we don't sell it, we're going to drink a lot of it ourselves. Okay, so any last minute thoughts or comments, Ari, before we wrap it up?
No, I'm just focused on drinking the rest of this rosé. So.
Well, I'm gonna let you continue to indulge in the rosés, but I wanted to thank Patrick for taking the time to join us. This was a very fun and an enjoyable experience, and I'm sure our listening audience as well that got more out of it because, and again, this is for us an opportunity to actually put together segments to educate our audience and to also not just educate them, but to take something with them to enhance their experience. Because I'm sure as people or folks are either dining in a restaurant or visiting a wine shop and they're trying to make decisions and they're seeing what's out there, it helps them kind of make a better decision to enjoy. And we're big fans of rosé. We're bigger fans of what you do, Patrick, because I think it's great that you're a couple things. One is, for selfish reasons, you're from Boston, and that's where we're based out of as well. And the fact that you're actually bringing quality production to the market that people can enjoy at a phenomenal price point. And that's important because most of us don't realize what goes on behind the scenes to actually put this together so that this beautiful bottle or these beautiful bottles end up on the shelves or on a wine list at a restaurant. I'm sure you spend many sleepless nights working to make things happen. And
so it's very, I wanted to combine really, I did a business school in France and I wanted to combine my passion, on the wine that grew during my whole youth, and I wanted to combine that and I have to, think about all the market and the price point too, which is part of the job. So the best thing is really to find a good product. And I have to say the winemakers are helping me a lot on that too. It's amazing. I enjoy it all the time.
And before we end this segment, Patrick, I wanted to ask you, as Patrick, what do you like to eat or pair with your rosés?
Wow, that's a tough question.
I know it's a tough question, but maybe
so
just pick one or two things that our listening audience we can enlighten them on. What does Patrick eat when he drinks rosé?
So the rosé for me, I like it. It's more about the people that I have around me than the meal really.
Oh, that's even a better point. That it's not about the food; it's the people that you're with.
Yeah. So for me, rosé, I enjoyed it a lot during my youth in France with my friends. Playing some pétanque. That's a game from south of France, and it's always rosé is like always for me. Gathering of friends.
Wait, real quickly. What is this game? Can you tell us real quickly? It's a French game that.
Yeah, pétanque is a game with how can I say that? It's it's metal balls that you have to throw a little ball on the ground, and you have to get your metal ones the closest to the little one, and you can spend like days and days.
I think that's like the Italian bocce.
Yeah, bocce, something like that.
Maybe, yeah. So
we should do some wine tasting / baton tournaments.
Yeah, and so you can just so it's a big competition. And for me, rosés, I enjoyed it a lot with my friends. So when you have good rosé with your friends, and it's just like for me gathering with good people. And then, but I like it. Actually, my favorite rosé would be I have so many favorites. I like the ones from the Aix area because it's a limestone soil, so it's more on the mineral parts. So you have the acidity on the rosé that I like, and it's it's mineral, and I like to just pair that with something light, with a carpaccio or a tartare or something like fresh and light, and some salads.
Excellent.
But I like as well I like the Bandol rosé very much. Bandol is more it's a clay soil, so you have more body in the soil and you feel it in the wine. So and that's one, and then they, as I said, they work with the Morvet that gives the body to the wine, and that I like it very much with the barbecue. We were tasting this one last time. I like it very much, the Bandol. So it's a large panel, but I would say, yeah, barbecue and pétanque, you know, with friends and rosé.
And if I can add, me personally lately, even this afternoon, I've been enjoying, so we're in New England, right? This is the season. I've been enjoying rosés with lobster rolls lately.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's good too. Yeah.
So I recommend definitely for those of us that are big fans of lobster rolls, rosés and lobster rolls. And also at the same token, I've been having a lot of pizza with rosé myself.
Yeah.
Pizza for me, obviously it's at the house, it's almost like a easy go-to when you don't want to cook, order pizza, but rosés and pizza have been my new combination.
Yeah, so rosé,
Excellent.
it's really depends of,
right.
You can have some, you know, very full body rosé that you can pair with red. You can do a lot, you can pair it with a lot of things, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. All right, Patrick. And again, another great segment. I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us. We want to thank you for coordinating to have Madeleine with us all the way from France. We wish you, again, much success, and we definitely would have you join us again at some point very soon. But thank you very much for being with us, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Foti and Harry, for having me. It's been a pleasure every time.
Our pleasure.
And yeah, it's great to exchange. You know, I love exchanging about rosé and about my region. I love it very much too.
And we love listening to your accent. I told you this last time.
Excellent. And before we sign off, just want to let our listening audience know a couple things. Is that both of these wonderful rosés are available on our shopping cart at urbanwineclub.co. And stay tuned. We've got an amazing lineup coming up with our segments. Ari, we've got more wine producers coming on board. We've got some spirit producers coming on board.
Wines from Crete, spirits, gins, all sorts of stuff.
We got all sorts of stuff going on. So continue to follow us through social media, our Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. But thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening and the rest of your summer. And I just wanted to say cheers.
Thanks again, Patrick. Thank you. And thanks to everybody listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.